Well, thanks again for having us this week, Eamon, as usual. A couple of quick points first and then back down to business. So first of all, United did what they had to against Fulham on Monday night and keep City at bay by 3 points with 8 games remaining. The Manchester Derby at the end of next month could be where this title is decided. How do you see it now, and what did you make of Patrick Vieira's remarks that bringing back Paul Scholes was desperation on Fergie's part?
Well, I think United will be favourites now, but they were very lucky to beat Fulham. Fulham had a penalty disallowed late in the game, which should have been allowed, and Patrick Vieira commented on that as well. He said, rightly I think, that referees, in this case a young referee, Michael Oliver, who's a good referee, had a good match, they are reluctant to give penalties at home when the big clubs are playing at home. And I think it was a terrible decision. That would have meant, a big difference, 2 points lost for United. I think bringing back Paul Scholes was a signal that United don't have young quality players coming through. Bringing Scholes out of desperation, bringing Paul Scholes back, I wouldn't describe it as an act of desperation, but it's certainly a bad sign of the youth production system at Manchester United, and the fact that they haven't gone in to the transfer market, which they need to do, to buy a real quality midfield player. But it's no more desperate than Mancini bringing Carlos Tevez back to play, having said earlier in the season they'd never play for City again. So City are clearly desperate, feeling the pressure. United are less desperate. I would say United just have a pretty average team. This would be, if they win the championship, which I still think they will do, it would be with the worst championship winning team that Manchester United have ever fielded. And it's a poor league anyway. But United look to me to be able to control the games against the smaller clubs. City at Stoke last Saturday really struggled to get a draw. So I would still favour United, and it may well come down to that big game, which is a Monday night game at the end of April.
And at the bottom it's looking ominous for Wolves now. Can they escape, and significantly if it's not a great situation for Kevin Doyle, Stephen Ward or Stephen Hunt to find themselves in ahead of the Euros?
A big match at the weekend. They're at home to Bolton, and that really is a very decisive game. Bolton are just outside the bottom 3. Wolves are at the bottom, 3 points behind. Wolves have to win that match. If they don't win that match, they look like they're doomed. And to be fair, they really deserve to be doomed, because they sacked Mick McCarthy and they appointed his assistant. They've had a string of bad results since. It didn't make sense. If they'd have brought somebody new into the club, it may have injected a sense of urgency that sometimes comes with a new coach. So they look doomed at the moment, but we'll know more after the weekend. If they fail to beat Bolton, they are gone. If they beat Bolton, on the other hand, it's very tight down there. If they beat Bolton, they can give themselves a chance of survival.
Finally, a quick word on the Champions League. Chelsea take a 1-0 lead back to the bridge.
It was a good win against Benfica, and they scored an away goal, which is very important in the Champions League. I think they will go through, but as for Di Matteo, the results have been mixed. They got a very good result at home to Napoli to get them to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They got a poor result at Main Road. They lost at Main Road. A game they might have done better, maybe won even, but they lost. And they played very poorly against Spurs at home last Saturday. He made 6 changes for the game against Benfica, which was brave. I didn't think they were the right changes, but if you win the match, a coach is always right. Now, he's got to clear this hurdle of Benfica, which is next Wednesday. Then they have the FA Cup, and that will be a test of them. I think the players like him. I think there's more solidarity in the group, because Villas-Boas before him had caused divisions. So he's done enough at the moment, but the jury will be out until we see A, can they get rid of Benfica, which they should do, and B, can they get to the cup final and possibly win the cup. If that were to happen, if those two things were to happen, They play Barcelona in the semi-final, most likely, of the Champions League. I don't think they'll win that match, but they'll have got there. They win the cup, it gives Di Matteo a sporting chance of maybe getting a job on a full-time basis, because the Chelsea job is not a job anyone would take for love of the game. They might take it for money, but working for Abramovich is hard work.
Okay. And then getting back down to business for this weekend and week coming, what will be your biggest bankers for us then?
I'm very confident I've got a treble, which will pay about 2-1, or maybe a little bit more. I think Spurs will beat Swansea at home. Swansea have done really well, but they both play both footballing sides, but I think Spurs will have more firepower up front. So that's a game I think they will win. I think Arsenal will go to QPR, and I think they'll win. They're on a roll, Arsenal. It's important that they win, and I think they will. And Manchester United play Blackburn on Monday night at Blackburn, and I think United will win that match as well. So I'd be confident of that treble. I think it's exceptional value, and without being greedy, you've got a great chance of winning money. I've also got a double, 2 draws. Again, I think the draws are extremely good value. Now, my 2 draws, which I'll be pretty confident of, I fancy Newcastle, Liverpool to draw. Liverpool away at Newcastle. They need something from that game, and I think they'll settle for a draw. Newcastle playing really well. It'll be a good match, and I think it's likely to end up a draw. The other game I think will be a draw is our old friends Wigan, who've done us a few favours in the past few weeks. They're at home to Stoke, and that has draw written all over it. Stoke, hard-working team, drew at Man City last week. Away from home, they give very little away. Wigan were fighting for their lives, and I see that. I strongly believe that will be a draw. So that will pay 10-1, the double, and the other one will pay 5-2. So I'd be pretty confident, more confident than usual in our bets this week. It's been a very difficult league to predict this year, but I'd be confident there'll be a pick-up after those two bets.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Eamon, and we'll see you next week for our Easter weekend preview.
Pleasure.